Hi guys, I'm back. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and lo and behold, I'm happy today because I don't have a toothache. So I'm very happy about that. So I got something to drink this time around, and all this. So I'm hoping I can let this last the entire duration of the video. Also, yesterday I checked um, the the book, and there's no errors in chapter 3. So I am very happy about that and all that. So I double checked chapter 3 of this book on my Kindle Create, and it's good. So I'm moving on to chapter 4. And when I'm done with this or reading this chapter, I am going to immediately go to chapter 4, make sure that there is no reading errors, no errors in it, and everything. So, piece of very good advice when you're proofreading with Grammarly: please make sure that you pay attention to what they're changing. So, yeah. Alright. Chapter 3. The first place that Barbara went to was the store to buy some more food for the cats. Several people were talking about Misty's murder and, thankfully, not looking at her as though she was some murderer. The store she went to was a small shop with only the bare items the owners knew people would buy. Waterhorse didn't have a big name grocery store like the large cities had, and so far no one had complained about it. "Come in to pick up food for royalty," Richard Frews said, knowing that the cats didn't like typical food like normal cats. So he called them royalty. "They make me glad that I have almost an unlimited income," joked Barbara, "or they would eat me out of house and home." Mr. Frew chuckled and went to get their special package. Her next stop was one of the 7 remaining bookstores that was still open. Enchanted Reeds was still closed. The sign read, "Due to a death in the family, Enchanted Reeds is closed." Barbara wondered if her widower would continue to keep the store open or would close and sell it. She pulled up before Dying to Read, which she knew only sold mystery and crime novels. The inside, which she had never poked her head in to see, looked like something out of a crime scene, even down to the outline of a body on the floor. It wasn't a store that she would consider buying anything from, but it made enough money to stay open, stock and all. "Mrs. Market," the oily voice of the owner, whom she had only seen twice since she moved back, said. The owner of the voice was Tyler Lovechild. He gave her the creeps, something that her husband had warned her over and over again. If someone was making you uncomfortable, always listen to your gut instinct. That was probably why she was a good author. She'd listened to her guts. "I'm sorry to hear about Misty's death," he said in the same voice that sent chills down her spine. "Yes, I don't think anyone thought that would happen to her. I do feel sorry for her husband, though, having to keep the store closed. However, I doubt I could have faced all those customers with all those raw emotions going through me." "I wouldn't," he said in a matter-of-fact tone. "That man put up with too much, though I must admit that he makes all the bad men look even worse. I would have left her." "Yeah, after you killed her," Barbara thought. "So, what can I do for you?" he asked. "I just wanted to get some information to use in the remembrance ceremony I plan on doing." Sally's idea was to honor her in her commitment to the town and the book community. She was Waterhorse's longest bookstore owner and a champion for people's right to read, and I just wanted to include you among other sellers that might want to honor her. "And you think that made her a good person?" He laughed. "Oh, Lord, really, Nats? I couldn't stand her and her monopoly on the craft. Did you know that I even had to jump through hoops to get the permit to open the shop? I hated her, and I'm not sorry she's gone." Barbara mentally wrote that down, though from her experience that didn't mean that he had a hand in her death. It just meant that he had a cold hatred that probably wouldn't die anytime soon. You know, I'll stop here and say, one thing I cannot stand is this dang gnat that's getting in my face and trying to go up my nose. Like, ugh. Well, I'm sorry that you think that way. You're welcome if you want to come to the ceremony. He rolled his eyes, and Barbara knew it was time to leave. How creepy was Lovechild? Sally asked when Barbara returned to the store. As creepy as his business is, she answered. There's nothing cozy about that place. Barbara then told her what he told her. Sam and Daniel both looked at each other with worried looks on their faces. So he made it clear that he wouldn't be attending, she said. That would be correct, said Barbara, and he also clarified that he wasn't sorry that Misty was dead. He also said that her husband made bad husbands look even worse. Yeah, he put up a lot with her, Sam said, but still, he didn't deserve to hear the news that his wife was dead in a burnt-out car. I'm going to agree, said Barbara, so I think that we should put him up as a suspect, since we know that the person that killed Misty and tried to kill me was a man. It could have been a woman. No, it was a man, Barbara countered. Misty was strong enough to fight against a woman. She worked out. I could tell when I saw her at the gym last week. A man, however, would be a different story altogether. She went to the gym? Daniel exclaimed, shocked. I never saw her as a gym kind of person. I had an aunt who had diabetes, and she went to the gym to keep her blood sugar under control. It's not that shocking. Well, it was shocking to me. Barbara shook her head. The following day, Barbara headed outside to get the paper. As she walked out, she checked all around her. There was no way that she was going to end up getting ambushed. Taking it, she hurried back inside and closed and locked the door. Taking the bag off, she opened it and started to read whatever articles caught her fancy. When she got to the obit, she saw that the funeral for Misty Hart was taking place on Tuesday. Barbara decided to close the shop on Tuesday to go to the funeral, and thankfully she knew how to stay hidden. There was no way she would be seen and get the family angry at her. There was no telling what they thought about her or if they believed she had done it. Sorry. I want you, Barbara, said Sally and Sam, to find out if any of the other shops are going to be closed on Tuesday. Why? Because innocent people will close their shops and probably will make it to her funeral. If that owner of Dying to Read is still open, that makes him look guilty. Do you think he will let his dislike for Misty cause him to make that mistake? Daniel asked. I don't know, Barbara said, but I do know that we are supposed to be banded together in solidarity. I know for a fact that several anti-censorship groups will be going. And how do you know that? I got an email last night from my agent. He told me 7 of the groups Misty was active in would be there. And if they can come, so can the other booksellers, Sam reasoned, and Barbara nodded. So are you going? I'm going, but you won't know I'm there, she told Sam. I'm not about to have a funeral turn into a screaming match. To begin with, there are way too many raw nerves at a funeral for me to add to it. Sounds like a good idea to me, staying low and all that. Thanks, Barbara said, glad for the support. And it will also allow me to see who's there and who's not, who's acting odd and who isn't. Will the police be there? Daniel asked. Probably Hawk will be there, Barbara said. I mean, he's investigating her deaths. He has to be there. Point taken, Sally said. Looks like I'm making another note. During the day, Barbara got several packages she had been waiting on, including her 4th book, which she only had 1 copy. While Sam worked to update the new website with the latest books, Barbara noticed that several people were running past her door. The sound of shouting and screaming followed them. What the hell is going on? Sally asked, alarm in her voice. Barbara opened the door and almost got plowed over by 2 women. She joined the running crowd, and that's when she noticed the black smoke, followed by the smell of burning. To her complete horror, Enchanted Reeds was on fire. She felt the tears welling up and falling down her face. Misty's beloved store was on fire. Everything she ever worked for was going up in smoke. At that moment, Barbara felt like she had just lost a friend. Is anyone inside? A man asked, breaking Barbara away from her thoughts. God, I hope not, a woman told him. I heard that the widower shut the store down since his wife died. Fire trucks soon arrived, and they watched as the crew got out and started screaming orders. Enchanted Reed was between 2 businesses. One of them was a daycare. Thankfully, from what little Barbara could see, it was closed. The one on the other side filled Barbara with dread. It was a pet store. Without thinking she would land in a world of trouble, she ran around the line, cut through it, and went around the back. Mr. Davidson, the owner, and 3 others were trying to get every pet out of there. She followed them in and grabbed the tiny lizards while Mr. Davidson grabbed the dogs and a cage with rabbits inside. Parrots were making noise, and the smoke was thicker as each pet was taken to safety. "I'll ride off the fish," he told her, "but we need to get the cats out of here." Barbara was now coughing, but she pulled out the Duff grit and grabbed as many kittens as her shirt could carry, which was a lot. The 2 girls grabbed bags and started to stuff cats into them. They all ran out, the girls jamming bags into the back and closing the door. "Are you out of your mind?" one of the firefighters asked them, who had come around the back to put water on whatever part wasn't on fire. All Barbara wanted was air. Despite the yelling they got from the fire chief, Mr. Davidson patted Barbara on the shoulder as they both wore their oxygen masks and gave her a thumbs up. She then turned her attention to Carol and a man she had never seen before. Both of them looked defeated. "Do you live your books?" the familiar voice of Detective Hawk asked. She saw him standing there. She made a motion telling him that she couldn't talk. "Well, then you can listen," he said. "What you did was dangerous." Barbara wasn't in the mood to hear him talk to her like she was some stupid woman. She had done what she had done because she cared. Behind them she could hear the hissing of fire meeting water and the shouts of orders from the fire chief as he returned to his job of fighting the fire. In the back of her mind a thought entered. First Misty had been killed, and then now her formerly owned store was burned. Someone had tried to kill her, which told Barbara only one thing. The person who killed Misty wasn't just satisfied with killing the woman, he wanted to kill her legacy. After she was released, she texted Sally, telling her to run the store while she headed home. She needed a shower, removed smoke, and changed clothes. "What happened?" Sally text asked. "Enchanted Reads is no more," Barbara texted back. "I'm heading home to shower and change." And then she climbed in and drove away. As she drove home, she thought about what had happened. The person who set Misty's former business on fire knew the daycare was going to be closed. It wasn't his intention to kill anyone. He wanted to get the thrill of causing the Hart family more pain. From what she had learned, Misty's family loved that shop in the short time she had lived in Waterhorse before her family moved to Chicago. All of their pride and joy was in that shop, and now it was gone, taken away from them by someone who had a sick mind and even sicker motives. It was also something that just wasn't done. You didn't burn down a bookstore. It had a certain stigma that no one, not even murderers themselves, ever wanted to have. Up ahead there was a curve that she slowed down to get around safely. As she lowered her speed, she noticed something odd about her car. The car wouldn't slow down. The turn got closer and closer, and she tried to engage the emergency brake, but it wouldn't respond. Fear coursed through her, and all she could see was the turn. She would go over the guardrail and rocks below if she continued this fast. And then she saw it. Her brain still saw the narrow path to the left despite the fear of going through her body. She forced her car to the left and went right through the 2 trees bordering each side of the path. The car was still speeding, but at least she wasn't about to go over the railing. The narrow path ended, and she was on a farm, animals, fencing going everywhere. And then she plowed her car right into the most enormous mud pit that she'd ever seen, and forced the vehicle to stop. "Thanks, honey," she said, thanking her husband for showing her a few tricks to keep her joining him in the afterlife. "My fence!" a woman screamed just as a brave cow decided to look through her window. She rolled down the window and saw a woman who looked madder than she had ever seen anyone. The woman ran down to where Barbara was, complete, a couple of others following behind her. "What? How?" "I think someone messed with my brakes," she told her. "I'm sorry about your fence." "And I thought we were going to have a quiet day," the man said. "First you decide to go in a burning building, and now you're in a big pond. Well, you can't say it'll make your life interesting." Hawk glared at her and stated, "You make my life way too interesting. How did you survive not going over the guardrail?" "My husband was a stunt driver, and he taught me some things," Barbara explained. "I haven't forgotten." "Is he dead?" Hawk asked. "Accident while on a set of a movie," she answered. They both watched her car being loaded, ready to be sent to forensics to find out what had happened to her car's brakes. I think someone is trying to erase Misty's legacy, Barbara told him. And how do you figure that? Well, first she's murdered, and then her former shop is burned. And now I think that someone is trying to kill me again. Or maybe you have bad brakes. My car is only 3 years old, Barbara countered, crossing arms and giving him the same look the school board member got from her. We're ready, the man told him. Good, Hawk said. Let me know what you find out. The man nodded, got into the cab, and drove away. Sam arrived to pick Barbara up as soon as she made the call. He created a face when she stepped into his car. Mud, pig mud, and smoke, she commented. He commented, not she. I wrote he. Sorry, guys. It was not she. It's a he. Mud, pig mud, and smoke, he commented when she entered his car. And who says that life isn't interesting? Sam, I don't like this kind of interesting, Barbara stated. As they drove, she told him about what had happened. She could tell that he didn't look happy about this. So someone has tried to kill you twice, and you think the next stage is burning your store down. Correct, she said, and Misty, most likely without realizing it, gave him the idea. The gasoline containers, he reasoned, and Barbara nodded. But what is the point in doing this? To deprive Misty and myself of our legacies. Misty was known for her belief in the freedom to read, and I know for a fact that when you're that dedicated to something, you will take all sorts of crap from those that don't. I should know. I've had my fair share of hate. What kind of hate? Hate mail, bomb threats, actual pipe bombs, she answered, and Sam whistled. That's why I moved back here. I wanted to escape all that nonsense I endured over the last 37 years. Do you think he'll try it again? Sam said. I hope not, said Barbara, looking out the window. I'm going to talk to someone about installing a security system. Hopefully the person will be dumb enough to try it again, and then we'll have him. When Sam dropped her off, she saw he hadn't driven away until she was through her front door. They waved at each other, and then she locked the door and went up to take a shower. She let all her troubles and fears go down the drain, then made the call. We can put the cameras outside tomorrow, the lady told her. Thanks, Barbara said, relief flooding her. After what happened today with that fire, I don't want to leave anything to chance. What fire? The woman asked her. At Enchanted Reeds, Barbara answered. I remember seeing your sign on the window when Misty displayed her books. Misty Hart had an outdated system installed a month ago, and the thing that sold her was the whole system was in a fireproof case. Oddly, she jumped at the chance to pay hundreds more dollars for a fireproof case we usually give to banks. That is odd. She also asked me many questions about what would happen if her store caught on fire. I told her that any footage that was caught would be safe. Thanks, Barbara said, feeling another piece was in place. Hawk was invited to go inside the burnt-out remains of Walter Horse's oldest bookshop. Everything around him was burned so severely you couldn't see any books that had once been there. They were going in first to assess things, and for Hawk to hear if the fire chief believed the fire was set or it was an accident. Well, I can tell you I know that it was set, he said to him, without even looking inside. And how you figure that? Hawk said to the fire chief. The lock was broken, he answered, and that's not the only reason. See this? He pointed to what looked like a pool. This is where the fire was set, but everything here has been saturated with gasoline. It's the only thing that they could get. It was the only thing that they got right in the movies. The match was thrown in and the whole thing went up. They left through the back door to keep from being seen. Thanks, he said, and he went looking for his partner, who was found in the remains of the office. What do we have here? The security system, Miller told him, and it's in a fireproof case, which means all the evidence that we need is safe and sound. How are you even getting back to work? Sally asked over the phone when Barbara called and told her what had happened. Sam and Daniel are picking me up, Barbara told her. I don't know if they can fix the brake line. Of course they can, Sally assured her. You must know how to fix these things to be a mechanic. A sudden thought hit her which made her groan. "What's wrong?" Sally asked her, concern in her voice. "I have to file a claim with the insurance company. I don't know when I'll be able to do that." "I can help you out." Barbara was a little surprised by that, and then she asked, "Do you know how to do that stuff?" "Of course I do," she said. "I'm a jack of all trades, or a Jill of all trades." Barbara thought, but she didn't have the heart to correct her. So when she told her what she wanted Sally to do, including returning her cats home, and then she hung up. The following day, she waited for the lady from the security company to arrive to upgrade the security system for her shop and home. After what had happened to her, she didn't feel safe. While she waited, she rang up books, chatted with the book club, and felt sad that their favorite place to hang out was now a pile of burned wood, and tried to keep a 4-year-old from pulling one of her kitten's tail. "Abby, don't do that," her mother scolded. "They're just animals, not stuffed creatures." Ming made it clear that he didn't like children. No, Ming made it clear she didn't like children. That's how I wrote it. I wrote it like that. Okay. I'm like, oh, dang. Alright. Mr. Hart appeared in Sutter's shop that afternoon. The cats came around to sniff him and made it clear they didn't like him, hissing at him. Barbara forced them into the back and closed the door. "Sorry about that," she said. "Did I come at a bad time?" he asked Barbara. "Of course not," she said. "I'm sorry about your loss." "Thanks," he said. "Do you have an office?" Barbara nodded, knowing that he wanted to talk to her in a place that she didn't have women buying baby books or checking out the newest horror book. She told Daniel she would return and motioned for Mr. Hart to follow her. Soon he was sitting in one of her comfortable chairs, and she was behind the desk. "Would you care for something?" Barbara asked him. "No, thanks," he said to her. "So what brings you here?" She asked him. "I wanted to talk to you about things I didn't tell the police. The officer that arrived didn't even question me, which I figured was because they had just dropped a bombshell like that. It's my mistake, guys, not Grammarly. Which I figured was because they had just dropped a bombshell that I had lost my wife. I know they do that in the big cities, but not here. Yes, detectives don't ask questions like that after they're told bad news. I'm afraid I have to disagree with that, and any information can help solve the case. Still, I don't think that you would have been up for answering any questions." "No, I wouldn't have," he agreed. "After nearly 2 weeks of living alone, I decided to come to you and tell you what I didn't tell them." Barbara was all ears. Is it something that made you worry about your wife?" He sighed and said, "I always worry about her. She was a bookseller, watching others come in and take her business away. She had all these books, and all those books, it might have gotten a couple dozen people a week. Not like she had before shops like Dying to Read and Serial Books arrived. She had clarified that they didn't understand what it meant to sell something as precious as a book on her shelves for decades. And I agree with that. And when you show up a book best-selling author, she sort of snaps. My intention wasn't to take away some of her business, Barbara told him. I was born in this town, spent some of my life here, and then decided to return. Chicago didn't agree with me anymore, and I wanted to change the pace. Peace, he reasoned, and Barbara nodded. I can imagine you would want to return to a place that made you feel at peace. That's what I love about this town. Though the burning down of my dead wife's business isn't what I thought would happen. Is there anything else that made you worry about her? Asked Barbara, hoping he would give her more to work with. Well, she started to get hate mail a couple years ago. The library had just been remodeled, and it was during Banned Book Week. I'm sure you heard of that. Who hadn't? Banned Book Week was to showcase books that had been challenged for all sorts of stupid reasons. Barbara had lived through the whole banned Harry Potter period because it promoted witchcraft and the occult. A group of my books were on those tables, Barbara told him. And so, what else? Well, the hate mail got even worse. I told her time and time again to take the mail to the police, but she refused. She was a tough cookie, and she was set in her ways. And then one of those nut groups arrived and started going from bookseller to bookseller, demanding that we remove books that they didn't want the public to read. Missy took a baseball bat to them, though she didn't hurt anyone, and then she goes to those school board meetings screaming at them for how they are a bunch of Nazis and that they didn't give a damn about the freedom freedoms that we enjoy. Soon she was banned from attending any school in the state. However, she wasn't upset about it. She said that when you stand up for what's right, the evil people will work harder to keep you from creating noise. Do you think any of those groups could have done it? Barbara asked him. I don't have any doubts, he said. They're all nasty and evil people. Well, I guess if they did do it, they didn't have to worry about enchanted reeds anymore. Do you have insurance? Barbara asked him. Of course, he answered. I'm waiting on the paperwork I need before filing. Are you planning on opening another store? Barbara hoped so. However, he said, I don't know. Well, I hope you do decide to reopen, Barbara said, because we need enchanted reeds now more than ever. I'll think about it, and he got up and walked out the room, looking as though the world hated him. Barbara felt terrible for him. Should we have it hooked up to our smartphones? Daniel asked when the lady left after finishing the upgrade. And what do you plan on doing with that footage? Sam asked his partner. See if the kittens are eating my catfish. I doubt they would, Barbara told him. But it can't hurt to try it out and see how good this video is. Barbara looked at her watch and said, I must get going. They're coming to my house to put my camera up. I'm glad you decided to get the camera, Sally remarked, looking at her phone, and I hope that whoever it is that tried to kill you is caught on camera. Me too, Barbara said, walking out the door. Sam dropped her off at home and told her that he would see her later. As she approached the house, she noticed a van parked near her place. Another woman got out, opened the side of her van, and got her equipment out. So where do you want the cameras? She asked. I'll show you, Barbara said, and the woman followed her up the drive. So what do you have for me today? Detective Hawk asked when he and his partner arrived at the shop. Barbara's car was high above everyone, and the man in charge took a light and shined it. See that? He said, shining it over the car's bright line. It looks like her brakes were cut. They weren't just cut, they were cut in a way that they would give out after a few miles. Whoever did this also cut her emergency brake. I didn't know the cars had them anymore. Many don't, he answered, but hers does, and it has to be cared for. So this car is customized, said Miller. Everything about this car is customized, he told Miller. And I mean everything. Who owns this car? Barbara Market, said Detective Hawk. She's a filthy rich former author. Well, the person who did this knew where even her emergency brake was, and they would have had. Give me a second here. Oh, dang gnats. Oh. Okay. And they would have had to have and they would have had to have had a chance to get to the car and get access to it. We're looking at a pro here, someone who knows much more than I do about these kinds of cars. The only way that someone could have gotten access to it is if they could get under the car, right? Right. Want to take a good guess at the back of the building doesn't have security cameras, Hawk said to them, and want to take a good guess that Mrs. Market didn't think to check on her car from time to time? Why should she? Miller said, it's not like this is Chicago. Hawk knew that Miller had a point, but he knew some people loved to mess with other people's cars and relied on the fact that none of them even poked their heads out to ensure their vehicles were still there. I'm surprised this woman is still alive, he told the detectives. Me too, Miller said. So what did our brake cutter use on her brakes? Hawk asked him. It looks like a laser, he answered, which made Hawk stare at him. I'm not kidding. This cut could only be done with a laser. Wait a minute. Someone is walking around this town with a laser? Miller said. That's exactly what I mean, he told him. However, this looks more like a portable one than an expensive one. So someone took her car, brought it to a location, jacked it up, cut the line with a laser, and brought it back, all without Market knowing about it. Correct, he said. However, where it was brought to had to be close by, so they could do the job quickly and return the car quickly. I'll let Miss Market know, Hawk told them, and I'm not looking forward to seeing her again. Why, what's wrong with her? She likes to get herself in dangerous positions, he told them, just like her damn characters. Barbara knew she wouldn't have a good afternoon when her doorbell rang and it turned out to be Hawk and a guy she had never seen before. Sam had dropped the cats back to her house, and both were looking at the detective with interest. "It's about your car," Hawk told her. "Can we come in?" "Of course," she said, moving aside to let them pass. "Stop judging them." Of course her cats ignored her. "So what happened to my car?" she asked as she sat down, and the detective sat across from her. "Well, we know for sure that your brakes were tampered with. Our mechanic told us that the line was exposed to a laser." "A what?" Barbara said. "A laser," Hawk repeated. "A portable one, and I know that you don't check on your car." "No one does," she said. "It's not like there's a huge crime rate here, or that cars are being stolen by teens like they do in Chicago or California." "And I'm going to agree with that," he said. "Does your building have cameras?" "Not last week, but I have it now," Barbara said, "and I had them installed here because of what happened last week." "Well, our man told us that the killer probably knew that you didn't check on your car and used that to his advantage. When did you get back to your car?" "After I helped to save those animals, you know, the stunt that got you so angry." Hawk frowned at that. "He told me about that," Miller said. "Called you a crazy old cat lady." Barbara glared at Hawk, crossed her arms, and said, "I'm a what?" "Forget what he said," Hawk said, and she knew he was trying to get back on track. However, she wouldn't forget that he called her a crazy old cat lady. She wasn't that old, and having cats wasn't a bad thing. He is probably a dog person from how he acted. "Do you think the fire gave him more time to ruin my car?" Barbara asked him. "Most likely," Miller said. "Don't give her information she can use," Hawk said, and Barbara rolled her eyes. "I already talked to the owner of Dying to Read," she said, and I already was visited by the widower." Hawk gave her a look that told her that he didn't like what she had just said. "Do you want to know what he said?" Barbara asked him, "or are you going to act all grumpy?" "Fine, what did he say?" Hawk asked her. "He told me what I pretty much suspected," Barbara said. "Missy had plenty of passion, and she was furious that the other shops had arrived to take her business. She got hate email, and visit from an active group against her actions." And what was that?" Miller asked her. "She fought against book bans and book censorship. We all fight against it, especially as I'm an author. In my world, there are no such thing as former authors while you're alive. Only when you're dead do you count as a former author. Though that's something that I feel will be changing soon." "Did he feel like her life was in danger?" Miller asked, ignoring his partner. "Yes, he did," Barbara answered. All right. So those little things, this was my goof up. This is like a whole new experience for me to like sit down and like actually read from my book. But I'm happy to be able to. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to check chapter 4. And yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the read. I had a lot of fun doing it. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.